Good day everyone, I am Jacqueline A. Olarte and I'm going to discuss about the documentation techniques. There's an old saying that says, a picture is worth 1,000 words, and this saying is actually very applicable when it comes to documenting systems. It's because a written description of systems can be worthy and very difficult to follow. That is why, based on some experience by many people, that visual image can actually convey vital system informations more efficiently and more effectively than words. That's why accountants uses system documentations routinely as system designers and auditors. That is why the ability to document systems in a graphic form is a very important skill for an accountant to master. So, first off, we have 5 basic documentation techniques. So, these are the data flow diagrams, entity relationship diagrams, system flowcharts, program flowcharts, and record layout. So, I'm just going to discuss to you the 2 most commonly used system techniques or documentation techniques. These are the data flow diagrams and the entity relationship diagrams, and the rest of the techniques, it will be discussed by my co-group mates. So, to start, first we have the data flow diagram. So, this diagram uses symbols to represent the entities, the processes, the data flows, and data stores to pertain to a system. So, as you can see below, there is the figure 6.12. So, this is the symbol set for the data flow diagram. So, first we have the first symbol we have for the entity name. This entity name, it is the input source or the output for the description, the destination of the data rather. And also, it can be maybe other interacting functions or systems or external to the organization. And this entity name should always be labeled as nouns, such as customer or suppliers. Next symbol will be the process description. So, this is a process that is triggered or supported by data, and it should be labeled as descriptive verb, such as ship goods, receive sales order, customer's order. We also have update records. So as you have, as based on my example given, there are verbs there, the update, the ship, and the received, because it is a process, so it is more on action. That is why it is being labeled as more on descriptive verb, not as nouns like the warehouse or the account receivables department or the sales department. So it should not be labeled like that, the process description. Next would be the data store name or noun. It is the store of data such as the master file, the transaction file, or the relevance file. So this data store name, it represents the accounting records in each process. So lastly, the symbol is the arrow or the labeled arrow. So this shows the direction of the data flow. So it represents the data flows processes. It represents the data flows between the processes, the entities, and the data store name. So it should be labeled uniquely, because the same label shouldn't be put into same, or it shouldn't be attached to 2 different flow lines, because the data flow, because the data when being processed, like from one process to another, after it came out from another process, it will not be the same. There is always a change for that. So naay mabagoan na bisan pa og ang data hasn't being physically altered, there's still a change because it has been gone into a process. So dili pwede nga sales order din siya nga process 1 pag abot sa process 2 sales order gihapon siya. So mahimo na ng approved sales order kay malibog na ang diagram, or dili na maguba na ang flows diagrams. And also, the arrows or the labeled arrows, it is connecting the process objects represent the flows of data, such as sales order, invoice or shipping notice. So, kaning mga invoice, shipping notice, mga sales order, this could be the label for your arrows or the labeled arrows. So, I'm gonna show you an example, which is the figure 6.13. So this is an example of data flow diagram for the sales order processing system. So we have entities here, the customer and the carrier, based on the symbol that I have been explained earlier. And also we have the process. The process here are the approved sales, the ship goods, bill customer, and prepare account receivable. So as you have noticed, there are verb words there. The word approve, shipped, build, and prepare. This is the descriptive verb. That is the process. For the data store name, we have the credit records, shipping log, customer AR records, and sales orders. So this is where they store the data. Next would be the arrows or the labeled arrows. So we have sales order, we have stock release, we have packing slip, customer bill, approved sales order, shipping notice, posting data. So, like I've said earlier about the arrows or the labeled arrows, that there shouldn't be the same label and that be attached to two different flow lines like the sales order there. So, in the sales order from the customer to approve sales, we have a labeled sales order. So, ma-process na siya, gikan sa customer to approve sales, and approve sales to bill customer. If ma-approve na ang sale, ato na siya padung sa customer para i-bill. Ang label na sa arrow, or ang data na pag-flow from approved sales to bill customer is approved sales order. So, from sales order, nahimo siya approved sales order. You see the changes, even if it is kanang gamay ra. So, we added approved sales order for the name or for the label. And also, when the data flow into a process and out again, they always remember that they should be changed. Okay, even if it is in the slightest thing, or even if there is no physically altered in the process, you have to still change the label. So next would be the systems analyst uses the data flow diagrams extensively to represent the logical elements of the system. However, this technique does not depict the physical system. So, in other words, the DFDs show what logical tasks are being done, but not how they are done or who or what is performing them. So, ang data flow diagram, logically or overview ra ang iyang ipakita. Ang process mismo or ang system mismo, gikan dinhi asa ang sunod, unsa mahitabo sunod, but it doesn't explain or it doesn't show on how they are done. Like, for example, how they're gonna approve the sales order, or how they are gonna bill the customers, or how they're gonna ship the goods. It doesn't show there, just the flow of the data of where it is going. And it also doesn't show there or who or what is performing them. Kinsa mo manage ana nga department or ana nga process. Like, kinsa mo ship, kinsa ang mo bill, kinsa mo approve. So, wa na siya gipakita nga do. Just simply the process of or just simply the system for that certain sales, for example, sales processing. So, based on the given example, the figure 6 point, the last example that I've given, the DFD doesn't show whether the sales approval process is separated physically from the billing processed in compliance with the internal control objective. So what dito gi-specify or gi-explain or gi-elaborate kung giunsa nila pagtrabaho or how they are done. Because sa DFD, they just going to, it shows the different level of details from very general to highly detailed, but not specifically gadget. And next, we have the entity relationship diagram. So this is a documentation technique used to represent the relationship between entities. And also, the entities can be either physical sources, like automobiles, cash, or inventory, or it may be events, like ordering inventory, receiving cash, shipping goods, or agents or persons. We have salesperson, we have customer or vendor, about which the organization wishes to capture data. So the one common used for the entity relationship diagrams is to model an organization's data. But it will be elaborated in chapter 8. So I'm just going to introduce to you what is entity relationship diagram. So the figure 6.14, this is the symbol set for the ER diagram, or the entity relationship diagram. So first, we have the square one, or the square symbol, labeled as salesperson, the customer, the vendor, the company car, sales order, and inventories. As you can see, there are physical sources, the company car, the inventory, and also sales order. And we have also events, inventory, yes, sales order, yes. And we also have agents, customer, the vendor, the salesperson. The one that in arrow, it is the entities. Next would be the connecting line, the label connecting line, which represents the nature of the relationship between the two entities. So there are assigned places and supplies. So salesperson, assigned company car. Customer, the relationship between customer and the sales order is the places. And for the vendor inventory, the relationship is the supply. The last symbol would be the numerical mapping between the entity instances. This is called the cardinality, or the degree of relationship. So, as you can see, there are numerical mapping. 1:1, 1:many, and many is to many. So, ang explanation ani, so, one salesperson is assigned one company car. Next is one customer places many sales order, or ni orders siya daghan iyang order. So one customer to many sales order. The last one will be vendor. Lots of many vendors have supply many inventory, supplies many inventory. So M to M, 1 to 1, 1 to M. That is the cardinality. So if we think entities in the ER diagram as files of records, so cardinality, pwede siya dito sa degree of relationship. It can be the maximum number of records in one file that are related into a single record in other file, and vice versa. Na mahitabo rin na siya if it is a file of records. So next would be the figure 6.16. So you can see that this is a data model. So system designers identify entities, and they prepare a model for them, for those entities. So as you can see, data model is the blueprint for what ultimately will become the physical database. So the entities here are sales order, shipping log, credit record, and customer AR record. So their relationship, or the nature of the relationship between sales order and shipping log, assigned. And for the credit record and a customer AR record, they have places. So the degree of relationship between sales order and shipping log, 1:1. So one sales order is assigned to one shipping log. And also for one credit record, it places to many customer account receivable record rather. And for the customer account receivable record, we have 1:many. So one customer equivalent to many shipping logs for not just one, many shipping logs. The data model presented in this report, or in my report, this is not sufficiently refined to be the plan for a workable database. It's because constructing a realistic data is very hard or very difficult because it is an advanced topic which requires understanding and applying techniques and rules which is beyond in this chapter. That is why, as I have said earlier, it will be elaborated in chapter 8. I'm just introducing you what is ER diagram here. Next would be the relationship between the two, the entity relationship diagram and the data flow diagrams. Aside from being both documentation techniques, these two are related through data. So the DFD, or the data flow diagrams, it is the model of system processes, while the ER models the data used in or affected by the system. So they are related through data. So each data stored in the data flow diagram, it represents the corresponding data entity in the ER diagram. So kung a system sa DFD, kada entity ato nga naa sa data flow diagram, i-elaborate or himuag model ni ER diagram. So kada store nga, kung unsa nga data ang na-store nga to, muna himuan og model ni ER, mag-base siya sa data nga naa ni data flow. That is why ilang relationship sa duha is through data. So that would be all for my report. So the next reporter would be Mr. Ian Formento for the system flowchart. Thank you for listening.